Sheep are among the stupidest animals on the face of the earth. Years ago, a shepherd once noted that from the moment they're born, sheep are looking for a way to die. They wander away from their protection. They wander right into the path of a predator. They fall into ditches, get caught up in brambles. They don't pay any attention at all to where they're going. They're stupid animals. So when Jesus calls us sheep, I have to wonder, is he calling us stupid? Of course not. But also, yeah, kinda. Not in a bad way, not in an insulting way, just as a matter of course. This is who we are. We are sheep, but he is the good shepherd. So it's not just about us. It's about us in relationship to him. He knows us. He knows our wayward ways. He knows how prone we are to wandering and roaming. He knows how many stupid things we can do in our life. And he loves us anyway, because he is the good shepherd. We like to think that we are independent. It's a great value in our culture to say that I am a maverick, I am a free thinker, I think for myself, I march to the beat of my own drum. But study after study after study has disproven that myth. There's one that I've talked about before, but I find it utterly fascinating, where scientists took 100 people, all of whom said that they were those mavericks, those leaders that they don't follow, they march to the beat of their own drum, and they put them into two groups, 50 and 50. The first group, they were all marched down one by one through a long corridor, and in the corridor was a man on a ladder changing a light bulb. And they were escorted into a room where they were sat by themselves and given instructions to take a test. And once they start, they can't stop. So they started to take the test, and about 5 minutes after they began, they heard what sounded like a man falling off a ladder. And nearly every single person in the room put down their pencil, got up, and walked out to check on the man to make sure he was okay. The other group of 50 were led down the same corridor, past the same man, same ladder, same light bulb, same room, same instructions. The only difference was, in the room when they entered were 4 people who had already been there, who were a part of the testers. And they were given the same instructions. Once you begin, you can't stop. And about 5 minutes into the exam, they all heard what sounded like a man falling off a ladder. And the 4 who had been there previously all looked up, looked around, and went back to taking the test. And nearly every single person who said that they are a leader, a maverick, marched to the beat of my own drum, they all did exactly the same thing. That's just one example of these tests that have been done throughout the ages to show that we are not what we think we are. We are not these mavericks, and we are marching to the beat of a drum, but it's not us who is making the beat. If you don't know who is beating on the drum, it's probably not Jesus. We've had another heartbreaking shooting, though you may not have heard about it because it's become so commonplace now that it's not what it was. Whenever there was a shooting in a school, it would be on the news for weeks, and it would be all you heard about because innocent children are gunned down in schools where they should be protected, where they should be safe. But now it's become so commonplace that it's kind of mentioned and then moved on to our president's latest tweet. But with this will come the required conversations about gun laws in our country. And you will have people who bleed out, guns don't kill people, people kill people. You know, I have to wonder, does anybody really believe that the voice of the Good Shepherd is telling us to arm ourselves with lethal weapons and be prepared to shoot dead anyone who threatens you? Is that the voice of the Good Shepherd? No. And if you believe it is, then I would like for somebody to please explain to me why we celebrate with great triumphant feasts all of the martyrs who died for our faith, and we do nothing for the crusaders. The voice of the shepherd is not the one telling us to arm ourselves. The NRA does have a point, though. Because just because we change the laws isn't going to protect anybody. You know, most of the violence that occurs through guns in our country is suicide. The problem in our country is not guns or people with guns. It's people who have guns and no hope. Of all of those things, there's only one that the church can really answer. We often talk about how the church is just bust at the seams on Christmas and Easter, but there's a third day that we don't often talk about. It's Mother's Day. Mother's Day, children come back to church with their mothers. And we can often talk about and lament the graying of the pews because all of the young people have left. And people will ask, what do we have to do to get them back? But there's a better question, and it's what made them leave in the first place. Why do young people walk away from the church? It's not their fault that they walk away. If you ask people about the Christian faith, they'll tell you all about our moral teachings. Every time I talk to a young Catholic who has left the church, it has nothing to do with our theology. It has nothing to do with our doctrines. It has nothing to do with our Mass. It's all about the moral teachings of the church because that's who they think we are. They say that they disagree with the church's teaching, and it's almost always something that has to do with sex. They disagree with the church's teaching on birth control or abortion or homosexuality or premarital sex. There's something in there that they disagree with, and they think that that's who we are, and that's not their fault. It is not their fault that that's all they hear from the pulpit. It is not their fault that all we have done is preach morality. That's our fault. If you want to know how to get them back, let's go all the way back and look at what made the church grow in the first place. Look at the Acts of the Apostles. They weren't out there preaching against birth control or abortion. They were out preaching hope, that Jesus died and was raised again, that we have hope in this world, that there is a power that is greater than any power on this earth. That's what won converts to Christianity. It was not a message of morality, it was a message of hope. And the problem in our culture and our society today is not that there are too many guns, though there are, and that is a problem. It's that there's not enough hope because people have walked away from the source of hope. Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. You are my sheep. I know how you wander, but I love you anyway, and I will always go after you. You are in the palm of my hands. And there is not a power on this earth that can remove you from me. The source of our faith is not morality. The source of our faith is hope. Because the world can become very dark. But when we know that we are in the palm of his hands, we can see light. And when the world rejects us and hates us, we know that we are in the palm of his hands and we are loved. And when the world treats us unjustly, we know that we are in the palm of the hands of the Good Shepherd and that he will ultimately make it right. There's something so liberating about that kind of hope, because it is not my job to go out and make the world more just. It is my job to listen to the beat of the drum of the Good Shepherd. It is my job to trust that Jesus will make the world more just, and I will be part of the flock of his justice. It is not my job to eradicate poverty in this world. It is my job to listen to the beat of the drummer of the Good Shepherd and to know I am in the palm of his hands, and I want to be a part of that movement that will eradicate poverty. It is not my job to go out into the world and make believers out of other people. It is my job to live a life of hope, knowing that I belong in the palm of his hand. Listen to the drum beaten by the Good Shepherd. The truth is, we are all sheep, and we don't like to hear that. The truth is, we all wander and do stupid things when we do. The truth is, nobody is marching to the beat of their own drum. And if you don't know who is beating on the drum that you're following, it is probably not the Good Shepherd. So on this great Mother's Day, it was mothers who birthed you. It was mothers that brought you into this flock. It was mothers that introduced you to the Good Shepherd Jesus. If you don't know who's beating on the drum that you're following, I promise you, your mother does. Ask her. Come home to the flock. Come home to the Good Shepherd. Come home to hope.